Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Palantir just had earnings today and the stock is down 24%. It is rough. We're down to about $7.20. I'm going to be doing my deep dive tomorrow and over the next couple of days, going into the numbers, what I liked, what I didn't like, some of the stuff that I thought was really promising, some of the stuff that I think people are overreacting to, and some of the stuff that I wish they had included a little bit more details on. Today and right now, this is still on earnings day. I did a live stream today for about 2 hours, really going through it in depth. I did a live stream with Tom Nash as well on his channel going in depth on it. I want to revisit the 7-minute monologue that CEO Alex Karp had, which, to be honest, I wasn't really paying attention to that much during the morning live stream because I was like tweeting and I was doing some other stuff, and so my head really wasn't there. I want to go through it and revisit again. There was some stuff he said that I know was important, like nuclear war. I think you guys might remember that stuff. And there was some other stuff where he was speaking very philosophically, like philosophical academic terms that I know about because I took philosophy in high school, but that I don't know if it was necessarily made sense to say it on the earnings call. So I'm going to go through it. Let's pull up his talk right now. I wish it was a live stream like they did for Q4 earnings. I mean, I think that would have been cooler, but alas, they chose to do this like pre-recorded version of it. So let's go to it. Let's listen to it. Let's react to it. And ultimately, I want to hear from Karp himself and what he had to say about earnings. So let's start it right now.
Earnings, we are in London. In past earnings calls and over the course of 2 decades, we've been involved in many of the most important things that have affected Western society. But what makes these times special is the trends that we believed would happen are happening at an accelerating rate. And what's super interesting is why is the broader world so late in recognizing how these things are accelerating, what's happening? What is the genesis of the escapism that our broader institutions, financial, cultural, legal, technical, why are they escaping to the metaverse or faculty lounge jargon?
This was really interesting. This idea that like our societal institutions, like the big companies of the world, they're trying to create the metaverse, a different world. I think that like the subtle philosophical undertone to this was that the real world is so bad that people want to escape to the metaverse because we're not capable as human beings of living in a society that's real, so we want to go away, which, to be honest, is a really interesting point of analysis. Like, no one has ever questioned why do we want to go to the metaverse? Like, why is the real world so bad that we need to create a virtual world? That's a very deep philosophical question. It was just interesting for him to bring it up right here. I think the point he was trying to get to is because the world is so bad and we want to go to the metaverse, that's why Palantir is important. I think like that's the deeper undertone here, because if the world is so bad, that means you need a company to resolve some of the bad stuff that exists in the world, i.e. Palantir. But bringing up this whole idea of running to the metaverse to me is implying that the world is bad. It's proving his point, and that we don't want to be in the real world. We want to be in the virtual world. Palantir is a company that's supposed to resolve some of the bad parts of living in the real world, hypothetically.
Or political structures that are clearly not solving problems, where inputs and outputs are totally if at all, correlated. Why is it that we are unable to see the violence that is occurring as truly something that it will be part of our ongoing future and not as episodic? Why do we describe these things as uncertainty when they are certain and are happening? Why?
Two things there. Now, I want to talk about this real quick before we get into the earnings call. Either you think of Karp and Palantir in two ways right here. Either you think he's fear-mongering, or you think he's correct. There's two versions of this. Number one, he's talking about the Ukraine-Russia situation. They predicted literally in like December or January, Karp was like, hey, the world's crazy stuff will happen. And Palantir is built for those crazy times. Then a month later, he seems like a prophet because something crazy, a war starts, and Palantir software has been absolutely vital in being able to mitigate some of the problems from that war, specifically in helping the Ukrainian refugee crisis and Lithuania, Poland, the UK. So like we know Palantir has been useful here. However, the way he's framing it in this earnings call is kind of like braggadocious, but not in a like negative way. More so this type of way of like, hey, we said this was going to happen, now it's going to happen, and why are people still thinking that these things are uncertainties? Why do people still feel that when a dictator says he's going to do something, he's not actually going to do it, right? And I think either you interpret Palantir, Karp as like he's fear-mongering and he's trying to get people to be really scared, which is going to get people to buy the software, and, you know, like it's like a typical defense contractor type of sales pitch. It's like, hey, bad things can happen, you need us in order to stop bad things from happening. That's one perspective. The second perspective, which I think if you're a shareholder in Palantir, you kind of buy into the philosophy of, is that bad things do happen. It's not a question of making the world scared. It's a question of looking at the reality of things that exist. Palantir has been here for terrorist attacks. Palantir has been here through COVID and vaccine distributions. Palantir has been here through something like Russia and Ukraine. If they've been vital, they've been there in financial crimes with Bernie Madoff, there, Osama bin Laden. I mean, there's so many different examples of things in which their software, their predictive analytics, all this stuff has been vital, where as a shareholder, you're like, okay, I'm buying into the fact that I think the world is crazy. And I think the craziness of the world, whether it's random like a pandemic or it's calculated like a dictatorship trying to invade another country, necessitates a technological company that is able to do more than just sell you ads on a video or, keep you addicted to your home feed. And Palantir is trying to be that company. I think most of us buy into that logic, but I think a lot of other people that may be watching this may be thinking he's trying to fearmonger people into thinking the world is bad.
Why is it that our institutions are not even pretending that they will be able to hold the center, while simultaneously pretending the center will coagulate to a center independent of new structures, new ways of doing things, of new products, new institutions, new ideas? Part of that is we have theological structures around how we build, for example, in our space, products. And that theology presupposes that the world will be stable. So specialized things we build for both commercial and, for example, special forces, things that are powering current events now were built over the last 2 decades precisely because if you are in the periphery doing the most sensitive, important work in the world, as you need to be able to interact with your software in a way where it's disconnected and then reconnects. Simple problem, normal software sucks at it. You need a very specialized product. We've been supplying this to the world's most important elite soldiers for nearly a decade under the context of what we call nexus peering. You need an ability to interact with space where you solve certain problems involving compute and involving the reduction of data using colloquially defined AI tuned by Foundry, getting that to the soldier. You need to be able to, in the context of commercial entities, rebuild the supply chain because there's war. There's obviously going to be food shortages. There's disruptions. You can no longer get certain resources from countries. You have to get them from others overnight. The systems literally presuppose that will never happen, and therefore fall completely apart when it does happen.
So the reason I did a little definition of theology on the side is because he kept using this word, right? And theology is referring to the study of religion. So, and like the study of the divine. So I think what he's saying that these institutions have these theological beliefs, this is sort of my interpretation of it, is that they believe so much in the divine. This is not really religious, but more so like this idea that nothing bad can happen. And the relationship to religion is that if you believe in like a god or this like supernatural force, you kind of use that as your salvation, right? When things go really bad, you're like, okay, at least I have a savior. At least I have this thing that I can always lean on. And that's why religion is such a comforting thing for so many individuals on this planet. So I think Karp is saying these institutions have these theological beliefs that things will be okay, that they never have to worry when things go bad. And then when things go bad and you got to get supply chains and this and that and logistics and everything's messed up and you can't cross borders because of this, then you're like, what do we do? And I think he's criticizing that worldview. Now, he's not criticizing religion. He's criticizing the metaphorical assumption that you can assume things are going to be okay, things are not going to be insane. And then when things go bad, you have no solutions to it, which is where Palantir as a company comes in, which is why he's saying we've been providing soldiers with mission critical things in space or on the ground for the past decade. So like he's setting up this earning call with the kind of same stuff we've heard for a while, but he's trying to stress his point a lot more. And I think the reason he's doing this is because he knows the earnings quarter didn't blow it out of the park, and he's trying to kind of reiterate this like overall existential statement about reality.
Is no plan for when it doesn't happen. This is why, even though we've been a completely focused product company that is only focused on building these products, and we have new products coming and not as focused on actually convincing people that we're right, they still sell. And because the other products are not built for this world. You have a financial context, just like we have raging inflation.
So right there, he said, like, we don't focus on sales that much, but our product still sells itself. Now, granted, they might have to start focusing on sales because they got to hit some more numbers. But like his point is, hey, we work on product and the product sells itself. they still need to work on sales because like you got to still sell the thing mass market.
We are very likely to see this war increase. The risk of a nuclear event is so much higher than is being presented in the public world that it's almost surreal to watch the coverage. And yet, there's really no idea of what you would do with evaluating the quality of revenue. So that, Palantir, for example, we are a company to thrive in good times, and we thrive in bad times. We are not built in the way the theologians of our financial institutions would love us to be built, so that you're built, exactly like if we had listened to them, we would only be growth and no free cash flow. We're a company that throws off free cash flow. We're a company that expected inflation. We're obviously super committed to the mission, but was obvious to us, even at inception in bad times, the quality of government revenues would be crucial, because other revenues would suffer from inflation. They would have a lower quality. They'd be less sticky. We built these products for the right reasons, and we're not ashamed to say that we're winning, maybe because we were right. We didn't want to be right, but some of this stuff was so obvious. It was obvious that these institutions, the theology of how we model these things in every context is just corrosive. So you end up with the wrong products, the wrong quality of revenue. So you have growth without free cash flow, or free cash flow without growth. You have products that work now that can be hyped up with sales, but clearly are not going to work the day after tomorrow. No ability to build new products. Why would you build new products? You're going to have this perfectly tinkered model, get the institutions to invest in you and acquire all these companies that actually build products. Yeah, but it's nearly impossible to build products for tomorrow. There aren't companies to acquire. You actually have to do it yourself. Sure, here and there you can look.
Okay, I'm getting a little bit more convinced as I watch this. So the second time around, I'm starting to understand his argument a little bit more. And the argument makes more sense. Now, we've heard this argument many times, right? This is like almost a snowflake comparison. It's like they're not innovating, they're not making new products, they're not working with the government, they're just this data warehouse company, and like a lot of people use them. They're growing at 100% because they have this mass market appeal. But what's the purpose? What's the mission? What's the goal? What's the value? Where's the heart? Where's the soul? None of that exists in a snowflake type of figure. Snowflake is not doing the mission critical stuff that Palantir is doing. So when he's speaking in this way and yes, there's this heightened level of arrogance. I'm not going to act like there's not, but there's this extreme level of confidence that he's speaking with, which is insinuating and explicitly that, look, our products are built to measure that things are not going to be perfect. Things are in fact going to be worse than perfect, really bad. And we are going to be the ones that innovate. We are going to be the ones that create the products for tomorrow. We are going to be the ones that actually establish a software that is able to deal with the complexities of this world. Now, the problem here to the skeptics are like, yeah, but your stock price is in the gutter. Yeah, but you're not growing fast enough. Yeah. Like, there's lots of different bearish arguments against this. Like, I think of what Karp is doing is like setting up this philosophical tier. And there's philosophical, I don't know, let's call it wall. And a lot of people are, they're taking a hammer and they're trying to smash holes into this wall with all of these logical arguments. They're not illogical, but they're logical arguments in the context of basically what you would call numbers, right? Numbers that disprove the overall thesis of the philosophy that Karp is going for. And Karp's point is like, yes, but this philosophy, the way we oriented the company, the way we've created the company, the way we've permeated the essence of how we believe in this company is rooted in this philosophical value. And this philosophical value is not going to be consistent with Wall Street. It's not going to be consistent with massive growth that Wall Street wants right now. It's definitely not going to be consistent with short-term valuations. It's going to be consistent with a fundamental belief, if you're a shareholder in this company, if you're an employee at the company, if you care about this company, that the world is not going to be perfect. And when the world is not perfect, the complexity of issues that exist, from supply chains to logistics to whatever else it may be, requires technology platforms that can actually solve the problem, that can actually innovate, that can actually offer their services in a way that other companies cannot offer their services, that can actually build things to be able to solve other things. The question, I think we all believe Palantir can do it. The question is, are they going to do it? And they've done it to an extent, but it's not the 60-70% hyper type of growth we're looking for to show that the market has agreed with their thesis that they can do it, which is why he's kind of stressing, look, nuclear war, it really could happen. People are acting like it can't happen. You could say that's fear-mongering, or you could say, hey, this guy's been working with the highest levels of the government for the past 20 years. He might know some stuff that the rest of us don't, and he's giving us a little bit of insight with that one sentence. Yes, does it develop? Yes, does it benefit his product because more people are going to buy it? Sure, but that also, if it's true, then it's true at the end of the day, and that means the product is valuable, the product is important. So I think like I'm starting to get a little bit more of the argument he's making here. He's definitely doing it because earnings weren't great and he wanted to reiterate to not, he basically is, this whole monologue is to say, stop worrying about the short term. Remember the reason why you invested in this company. Yes, earnings aren't phenomenal, but trust that we are going to be the most valuable software company in the world. Will that happen? I don't know, but at least I'm getting a little bit of more of his point in this monologue. Is it marketing? Yes. I'm not going to act like it's not marketing, but is it convincing as hell because there's a lot of logic behind it? Yes.
Look for things to accelerate. Palantir has done that. So we at Palantir are not fleeing to a different world, whether it's the meta world or a theological world or a financial version of theological world or a grad school version of the theological world, which isn't even actually academic, because academic presupposes interacting with the object from a theoretical perspective differentiated from the object, not importing a theological preconceived version of the object onto the theory and re-importing that onto the object.
Okay, that he didn't need to say all that, bro. I think that's where you lose some investors. They're like, bro, shut the like, what are you saying, man? I kind of get what he's saying. If I really wanted to break it down, I could do a little bit more breaking down, but this video is pretty already long already. We're just gonna skip that part. I think the core premise is like, it's not about theories, it's about practices. And when you attach these theories to these false narratives, then that doesn't allow us to understand the true nature of what's going on in practice, which is the fact that the world is complex. But that's just like, that's the stuff where I have to admit, it's like, you're gonna piss off a lot of people. And like, I love it because I love philosophy and stuff. I took a class called Theory of Knowledge in high school, so I get the sort of arguments he's making. But most people are gonna be like, bro, what are you saying, bro?
Products don't work like that. Reality doesn't work like that. Palantir, we are playing a critical, crucial, and much bigger role than we're allowed to mention or whatever discuss in public in current events. Obviously commercially, because our partners and other future partners are being disrupted, their supply chains are disrupted. There's a threat of a disruption in the broader economy, and many realize that the reality of a truly monumental, epic, and horrific disruption in the form of a nuclear attack is much higher than is being reported. But also in the government context, where we are playing an outsized role, and we're very proud of that, and we're proud of the people we're able to support, and we're also eager to continue to help to support them. Must also say the people who've watching this, many of whom share our belief that the future is to be won by people who accept the reality of what it is and not what it ought to be, that you can only change the ought by accepting what is, that you've stuck with us and I hope will stick with us, and we are going to continue supplying the world's most important products to the most interesting, creative, and effectual people in the world, and continue to thrive as this hybrid company that is both bull and bear and comes into full stride in both environments, but in absolutely anomalous stride when times are rough and people are hiding. Palantir's products are on the absolute front line, and you see them in the news every day. And we would love someday to discuss exactly what we're doing, but we are playing a good role, and your support and buying into the world as it is enormously important to us. Thank you.
All right. So when he says we cannot change what ought to be without changing what is, he's basically saying in order to change, a future world to make it better, we have to change what's happening right now. And that's the argument that he's going for. This video is 18 minutes long. I'm going to end it there. Let me know what you guys thought about my thoughts and analysis. Let me know what you guys thought about Alex Karp's thoughts and analysis. I think this is incredibly important to think about because he really kind of like put it all out there before an earnings call that didn't go the best in terms of the stock price, but I think from the numbers weren't the worst as well. And I'll give my coverage on that tomorrow. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts. And yeah, this was Alex Karp's monologue talking and reiterating his argument around Palantir. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.